Welcome back to another episode of the War Room, where we will be talking a lot of draft stuff today because, as I have the great Dr. Seifert on here, the draft is still not here. We are still crawling towards the 2025 draft, which could have ended a month ago for me because we have moved on, whether it's NPI, 15U, 16U, 17U, already eyeing the 2026 draft, 2027 on the horizon. These 28s are going off. But it never gets to us. Which, Seif, on this opener, I do want to talk about something else that never got to some hitters, the Bugs Bunny changeup. And can you tell me what a Bugs Bunny changeup is?
Well, like you just said, when I get to it, the Bugs Bunny changeup never gets to the hitter. So when I think of it, I always think of it about the same day when Trevor Hoffman was closing 50 games a year. I think he had probably the best Bugs Bunny in baseball. So
it's kind of like you tell
it's
me it's coming.
Yeah, it's not here yet, though.
And I have to tell you, I bring this up because at an event, we had some young scouts who are doing a great job. And a kid came in, he throws, that's a Bugs Bunny changeup, right? You kind of put in notes, Bugs Bunny changeup. And then we started talking about what a Bugs Bunny changeup is. And this one of our great young scouts was like, wait, hold on. I always thought this was just like, he had a complete different idea of what a Bugs Bunny changeup is because we have reached that kind of almost 2 generations down the line of they have not seen the actual Looney Tunes episode where Bugs Bunny throws said changeup, which I came home from my travels. I show my dad. My dad pulls it up on YouTube. We're rewatching it. I was showing it to my kids. Like, this is what the Bugs Bunny changeup is. And I couldn't stop laughing at, like, hey, we've kind of moved on. Not all of these new scouts have seen the episode of Bugs Bunny that really described what a Bugs Bunny changeup is. So how about that?
Yeah, I mean, especially in the day when we have like a term for everything, the sweeper. You know, we had the cutter years ago. Now we got the sweeper and a lot of variety, a lot of play off the slurve and the curve. So yes, it's always good to bring back Bugs Bunny.
Just incredible. So if you have not, any young scouts out there, or any young people out there, or anybody in general hasn't seen an incredible episode of Bugs Bunny where he goes out, he strikes everybody out on the slowest changeup of all time. Strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, you're out. Strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, you're out. And then he ends up catching a fly ball and Statue of Liberty. It's a great episode. I love Bugs Bunny. Love the Looney Tunes. But really, this draft, we say it every year. I can't get over just how late things go because come from the MPI, which the MPI this year was incredible. I think there were 6 or 7 arms that were 96, 97. There were, I think, 15, maybe 20 that were 94 or better. Guys just run out there. They're kind of fresh, which is why I think it's so important to get the MPI. You have all these fresh 26 arms who are showing off their stuff, getting them some early reports in. Incredible event there. But meanwhile, we're still almost a month away from the draft. How do you combine like the crossover? Most area guys, I'm assuming like you have everything in at this point. You are just passing it up. Hey, let me start getting ahead. Is that like kind of the way that guys are going about things now?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, their 2026 follow list is already been started. Maybe not too deep into it yet, but they're at the area code tryouts. They're everywhere that you need to be this time. You know, getting ready for the area codes, getting ready for the East Coast Pro. Personally, I'm getting ready for the Midwest Scout Showcase. You know, those are all coming up. But yeah, right now all the prep work for that's going, and you're still catching the College World Series on TV, right? That's probably what you fall asleep to or what you take a break from, because the nice thing about the draft going deeper now, I know it's still 3 weeks away, but it's so much deeper in the summer. But you wouldn't have players like Gage Wood, what he just did at the World Series, right? Because the draft would have been last week. So he would have went where he was pegged to go. And just to continue with him as example, anytime you throw a 9-inning no-no at the College World Series with 19 punchies, your draft value goes up, because really the only question mark with him in particular was his health. You know, can he go 9? Can he throw 100 pitches? He's had some shoulder issues in the past, both in high school and both at Arkansas. And not that he totally put those in the past, but maybe he quieted those a little bit. So if anyone just elevated himself in the last week or in the last couple of days, you know, it's good for this opportunity for a Gage Wood because I don't know if he doubled his bonus, but he certainly increased his bonus quite a bit.
For sure. It kind of had Will Bednar throwbacks to 21, where he was so dominant for Mississippi State, jumps up into the first round high with the Giants there. So very big time outing from Gage Wood. You talk about the College World Series, going from the regionals into the College World Series, where, I mean, Cade Anderson just continues to go out and post, and he just is walking around with all sorts of drippy swagger right now and looking like a potential 1-1 guy. But I also, along the same lines of the College World Series, the MLB Draft Combine, watching that, and we're recording on day 2 of the Combine, getting a chance to check out. I'm always looking at it like, hey, these are the last times you set eyes. We're going to watch more BP of the Parker brothers, who we love, right? JoJo and Jacob. JoJo sounds like he's, potential top 10 pick at this point, which is outstanding. I think the adjustments that he's made with his swing are incredible, so he's continued to rise. But you watch the Combine, they're kind of just going through a workout. They did play a game, but this is kind of after the season. What were some things just from day 1 of the Combine that jumped out? I know Brandon Compton, a week ago, we were talking about, hey, Compton's at ASU. He's kind of hitting the 6 and 7 hole. They had a good lineup. Why was he so down? I know Brett Wallace went from ASU to Cal. Like, that was kind of a hitting guy that they had at ASU. So his hitting guy leaves. And you had just kept harping on, but his exit velos were so high. And then he goes to Arizona. And what was he hitting at? He with the highest BPE exit velos?
Yeah, he recorded 5 of the top 7 ever recorded at the Combine. So that's a loud statement right there. I think they're up in general, because there was a lot of other, like Quentin Young and Tatum Gray, and some of the preps were just launching balls. And I'm not a conspiracy guy, as you know, but like there were so many of them. Maybe it was a different baseball. I don't know. But for me, like Compton particular, his highest exit velo this spring with medal was 114.8. His top, I wasn't there live, but it was recorded as 118 plus. He had 3 others that were over 116. So that's quite a big boost. And from metal to wood, from spring to summer. So I'm, again, not a conspiracy guy, but the ball was certainly jumping out of there. But nonetheless, Brandon Compton, his value is in his raw power, and he showed his raw power. So that was really, really good way to go out for him.
It's one of those, and I don't think there's ever a time where you're going in the BP and like, hey, this guy's a 5th rounder. Now he's up into the 1st round because he showed up to the Combine and hit these 10 pitches hard. But it is, if he was we're looking at him 70 to 75. Well, he might be 60 to 65. Like this guy may not get to us, right?
Yeah, and for me, like I saw Compton in the Cape last summer, just fell in love with him. I thought he could be like the next James Tibbs, right? The college hitter who can just hit, who goes about 20 spots, 15 spots. I think Tibbs went 13th overall last year. And I'd kind of Compton to be that guy, right? Like kind of like a Devin Taylor from Indiana, he's always hit. Compton was coming off a great redshirt freshman year with, I think, like 18 home runs and hitting 354 at ASU. The summer before that, he was in the Northwoods and hit like over 300 with power. So he put together a Northwood summer, a spring at ASU, and a summer in the Cape leading into this coming spring, and didn't have it go his way. He only hit like 270, only 9 home runs. He did have like 19, 20 doubles, but he had less than 10 home runs. But he did show the raw power, so you like that. So with all that said, we thought he'd be a mid-1st rounder, high end, going into the draft. And like you just stated, maybe a 3rd rounder just a week ago. So I'm not just saying one batting practice session gets him in the 2nd round, but he's settling in there somewhere, right? Mid 2, late 2, early 3, somewhere in there is probably where he'll end up getting picked.
It's funny. I'm thinking about it as we put together our Monster Mega Mock Draft here for all of day 1, which will be coming. And in kind of a rough draft, I was thinking, oh, this guy kind of screams Red Sox pick, right? James Tibbs, they just traded for him. That is where we had Brandon Compton currently at 75 to the Red Sox, which it may have to move up a little bit. We'll probably play around with that. Sorry to give some behind the scenes stuff there. But you did talk about some of those high school guys, but like Tatum Gray, who huge standout at the Super 60, put on a show, had a nice pre-spring league for what Rob Allison does for us there in the state of Iowa with their season starting so late. but he had 3 of the top 7 exit velocities, 4 over 400 feet, including the longest of 417 feet. He can continue to do what he does as a switch hitter. It is ultra physical, feels like a top 2 rounder, where guys are going to have to decide how much do we like this guy, how much do we believe in the development, how much, Seif, do you think the player development aspect of it? So you had a switch hitter from the state of Iowa. What can we do with this hitter? Do we develop these guys well? Because he's going to need some development, right? He needs those at bats. He needs to get up there, especially as a switch hitter from a cold weather state. Does that kind of go into how teams are thinking about him, where, hey, we don't do a good job with these guys, we probably have to steer away from him as more, or push him towards the 3rd round, versus, hey, we produce nonstop position player bats, we can take him in the 2nd round?
Yeah, I do think it's organization specific, and the best organizations not only scout the talent that they have in their system the best, right, but they also acknowledge, like, hey, we have a real weakness here, or we have a real strength here, right? Like, some organizations are just blind to maybe what they don't do and want to have an excuse or a reason for every failed prospect or every failed plan they put into actions. Yeah. But the best organizations are the ones that evaluate themselves correctly and know what they do develop, and draft a draft philosophy along those lines. So, Compton would, like you said, Red Sox. He also fits for the Yankees. Yes. Compton's strikeout rate is probably a little too, I'm not saying you're wrong about the Red Sox, but his strikeout rate is probably a little too high for what the Red Sox really like. So maybe he's a Yankee and Oriole, because as we know, the Orioles, they'll go with those big whiff guys and bring them along, especially when they have an outstanding skill or tool like Compton's power. So, but there are certainly several different clubs for each type of player.
Yeah, and then I really think up top, like the talent, just, hey, we can't not take this. This is here. Hey, find me good players. Bring them into my system. Cool. This guy's here. He's a product. We're just going to kind of walk his way. Chase Dollander to Colorado. Chase Burns, he's going to go to Cincinnati, wherever it's going to be. Hey, we can walk these guys there. Right. But as you get later, what do we do well? Because we're trying to build these assets, right? In the end, we're trying to win games at the big league level, trying to capture that WAR. We have to be able to develop something, whether it's going to do it here or it's going to be an asset that we can then trade. What do we do well, right? Do we produce left-handed pitchers? Go grab them because we know we can do this and make this guy X WAR. Or finding this power bat. We can turn these power bats and we can get home runs and we can fix launch angle, whatever that may be. But speaking of those power bats, Quentin Young, who you put down here, 11 balls over 100, max was 115. He had one of those things, and you go back to last summer where a year ahead, right? Everybody's planning the draft, trying to get ahead on next year's draft. Quentin Young had been a 2026. He upclassed. I think he's like 18.3, 18.4, so not super young. It was probably a good move by him. 2 years ago at the underclass, that was the single best prospect. Like, it was one of those where, hey, don't overthink this. This kid is an Adonis. He moves way better than he should for his body. The hands really work, where it's going to play third base, but you could put him out at shortstop because the hands really work so well there. There was swing and miss throughout the summer. I constantly walked away thinking, I think there's adjustments to be made here, though. It's not anemic. It's not something where, hey, this is a trait that he's a character flaw of his swing. It was more, hey, there's an adjustment to be made here. And it felt like he did that throughout the spring. And then when you sit down, you get to see him for this last time. It really felt to me where, hey, he's starting to leave, take away those risk factors. He's starting to make you think like, hey, the upside's so strong and so high that we have to go after a guy like this. And I always go to you, Seif, like, hey, go watch this event. You're going to go to the Midwest Prospect Pro Case, and you're going to see these guys for the first time. This guy's a dude. This guy's a really good one. Getting those notes. If you see Quentin Young for the first time, it's like, this guy's a first rounder. So if this talk starts coming, this guy's a top 50 pick, get ready, because you can't find a lot of guys who look like Quentin Young, who go out there and produce that power to all fields, who move the way he does on the infield. I'm intrigued to see what his value is. Let us at Prep Baseball be the first to say that this guy had a chance to be a top 10 pick 2 years ago, staying in the class of 2026. He's a year younger, so his name may continue to rise. Tate Salazine, who you have on here, who, Seif, I don't know if you've seen Tate Salazine up close and personal, but not the biggest frame, but all this kid does is hit the ball hard. And it's one of the more eye-opening, astounding things to see a smaller framed, wiry kid, and all the South-Asians kind of do it. His brother Ty last year got 7 figures to go off and play. But the polished glove work, 3 balls over 400 feet. Continue. I think he's a day one guy. Kind of looking at that 3rd round where who likes him the most. Had a really nice year. Jordan Yost, who was kind of the helium buzz name out of nowhere in Florida, as the Florida scouting community continues to just wait for 2026. If you haven't had a chance, check out prepbaseball.com, where put out some NPI notes. There was an absolute 3-headed monster of arms coming out of the state of Florida. 2026, the Sunshine State is back, Seif. I will say, I will go slam dunk guarantee 3 first-rounders coming out of Florida next year.
Wow.
But there could be as many as 5, 6. Like it's going to be a fun. 3 is a lot though. That was an aggressive slam dunk. But Jordan Yost, the bat the ball's there. He's an athlete. His brother's at the University of Florida right now, so we'll see what happens with that. But you know how much everybody loves to bat the ball. You have Gustavo Melendez on here. Gus Melendez from Puerto Rico. Seif, let me take you back 2 years ago, NPI. Gus Melendez is there. I think he played in all 3 levels. So we have 3 levels at the NPI. There's a 15U, 16U, 17U. He played in every level and dominated every level.
Pretty good.
This guy was taking daddy hacks. He was on time the whole time. Like it was one of our favorite players, but he's at Puerto Rico, kind of lost track of him. He's playing with multiple teams. When you put his name in here on the note from yesterday at the Combine, I was really excited about it. I don't know where Gus Melendez is going to go. I'm not going to sit here and just be like, this guy looks like a top 2 round. But all I know is 2 years ago, that was the single number 1 name that I walked away from the NPI with, because he must have gotten 40 at bats and he probably hit 750. And he was on 3rd base in a heartbeat, and it was incredible. I don't know if you got a chance to actually watch it.
I watched just the video clips, the video highlights from it, certainly.
Oh, I was glad that you had his name on here because it was astounding.
He looked small. He looked smaller too, kind of like South Scene.
You know what?
5'8", 5'10".
There's no better time to keep getting smaller.
That's true.
In pro baseball, especially Slade Caldwell is just rocketing up the D-backs system. He's actually in high A here out by me. I'm gonna have to take my kids to the Hillsborough Hops game to get a look at all the first rounders the D-backs got in their outfield. But you have some arms on here that, again, to me, like, hey, we've been saying this for a year and a half, so I don't know. Like, just moving on. Dean Livingston, Georgia product, 2-way kid, athlete. Ian Smith was all over this. Hey, he can really spin it. He throws strikes. He's athletic. Huge fan of his. CJ Gray, shout out Brandon Hall in North Carolina. Always reminded me of Chase Petty, Jersey product, 21, first rounder, big leaguer now, except CJ Gray spun it better. He had a tough spring where his team wasn't great, so it was hard for him to throw to the catcher. I thought going to the Combine would be huge for him, a huge asset. Sounds like it was, because the slider is there. There's some aptitude. Quarterback, did a lot of 7-on-7 last year. He's doing a lot of quarterback stuff. That's why he wasn't at East Coast Pro, but he's been in our top 30 for almost a year now because of the dynamic movement patterns, athleticism. He's probably rising up the ranks. Reed Worley, who has done nothing but post for, over a year now. Like, go back to the NPI to last spring, Super 60, prep baseball All-American. It's kind of like you just go off and play. Here it is. Let's grab this guy because it's a 4-quadrant fastball. It's feel for multiple breaking balls, 3,000 plus spin. You can kill it on the changeup. It's a starter profile. Parker Rhodes, Mississippi State recruit, who's got electric arm talent. What's the coaching change going to do? Even though Coach Parker's still there as the pitching coach, we'll see what happens with him. But it was very prep heavy, right, on day one, Seif?
Yeah, very much. I mean, Brandon Compton was the highlight, right? And then the day before, Gage Wood was the college baseball highlight. So today, just looking forward to more of the draft combine, and then 2 games at the College World Series with Coastal Louisville, and then LSU and Arkansas round 2.
Before we wrap up the combine, I do have to give a shout out now that I'm thinking of it, because this has become a really awesome year for Georgia, because Daniel Pierce is a shortstop who throughout the spring, he played for Team Elite last year at the NPI. Shoot, imagine coming to the NPI and getting all this track record. Amazing. He did an interview and he was outstanding. And I heard nothing out besides the fact like, hey, this guy's just that dude. He produces. It's a high floor type guy. He gets after it. Him sitting down at 18 during this and giving an incredible interview with Jared Carabas out in the outfield, who ended up getting hit by a home run ball during the interview. The kid handled himself like a 10-year big league vet, but there was still like, it wasn't super buttoned up, Bull Durham, like just given the stereotypical quotes. He had some moxie to him, so there was some charisma, but it was still like tunnel visioned. Daniel Pierce, who again, we in this first round, we got definitely mocked high. Shoot, we may have to go even higher based on the interviews. If he's given interviews to scouting directors and GMs the way he did on live television, like I'm ready to give this guy a boatload of money. But I do think those interviews are super important. Shifting over a little bit to the prep right or the college right-handers. I wanted to talk a little bit more, and we've talked nonstop about Tyler Bremner. Right. He's just a very fascinating, polarizing part of this year's draft where we thought he would have a chance to be a top 3 pick, kind of scuffled out of the gate. He was dominant late in the game. Right. He left everybody. This was 10, 13, double-digit punch outs throughout. Is he a slam dunk top 15 pick, or do you think it's beyond that?
I would say, yeah, I'd say, I mean, because to my knowledge, again, we the nice thing about our jobs, we evaluate players, right? We don't dig into the medicals. We don't dig into the psych tests, if you want to call them that. But we do notice a good interview, just like you noticed a good interview with your guy. And I'm watching the College World Series yesterday, and they interviewed Eddie King Jr., who hit the game-winning RBI in the bottom of the ninth inning walk-off sac fly. To me, that was a great interview on the field right after the game. And so we do use a lot of things into account, but the medicals we don't. But back to Tyler Bremner. I think he's a slam dunk top 15. His last half of the season was really, really good. The tough part about like Bremner and Ianson and some of those other guys for me is they showed so well at the USA CNT trials last year. Like Bremner was ridiculous. He was thrown up to 97, 98. He had a 70 grade changeup. In my eyes, also saw like a 60 grade sweeper, right? A plus breaking ball. He didn't do that this spring, but he did show his changeup. He did show velocity up to 97, 98 again, but he just really never improved upon that one look that I had from the CNT. So I think it was just kind of like tough watching this guy not improve, but that doesn't mean he's not a special talent. That doesn't mean he's not a top half of the first round. So if I'm picking in top half of the first round, he's definitely a guy I'm starting to consider around like pick 7-ish, and then obviously all the way to wherever.
In doing our exercise with this huge mock, you start thinking about those guys, and I think we kind of got to a point, like I think it was like 7 or 8, where hey, things are going to get kind of funny here because there's directions you can go in depending on what the signability is, because there's still a lot of depth to it. And this feels like a draft to me. Outside the prep shortstops, you're going to want to grab those guys early. A lot of SEC guys. You can create quality through quantity in this draft. I think you're going to want to get a lot of guys because, hey, we like this. And even to that, talk about Bremner, because I keep going back to Trent Caraway because such a fan of him in high school. Last year he gets hurt as a freshman, kind of down throughout this year where we thought he had a chance to be potentially push his way in the first round. Then he explodes in the postseason, right? But what I want to ask you about is we're grading out the tools. You go out there, you have even a Bremner, what he did at the college national team last summer. How long does it take for you to come off of where you have him? And how much do you rely on, hey, this is what we have with these tools. Like, hey, these are 3-4 plus pitches. How do we not take this guy, right? What separates those guys, and how do you make that separation?
I assume what separates is just good scouts with good memories, right? Like, how can I forget what he did last summer? I mean, for the listeners, for me, Bremner is Michael Wacha, but he's 6'2", 190 as opposed to 6'6", 200, right? 210, whatever. Wacha's a little bit bigger now, but Wacha was a right-hander, with a good velocity at the time, although it was only like 92, 93, right? That was, 10 years ago, 13 years ago, actually. Wacha's 92, 93 with a plus changeup. If you're taking Michael Wacha now, that velocity's 95, 97, which is what Bremner's thrown. So if you want like a 25 WAR guy, a 15-year, or I guess a 10-year big leaguer who's probably going to be a 15-year big leaguer, Tyler Bremner's a great pick, because to me it's Michael Wacha, just in a different decade, of the draft. So, but back to your question, is I just think that, again, best organizations do things well, and the ones that have the best memory, thinking back to last summer, like how good this guy was, and then they put that together with what they saw the last half of the spring season. And I'm not saying erase what they saw the first half of the spring season, but if he was really good to start and he was really good to close, that's a really good player. So I might be high on Bremner, but yeah, I forgot where we mocked him, because we mocked 107 guys that day. But Bremner's got to be middle to 10 to 15, 12 to 15, somewhere in there in the draft.
We have him at the Giants at 13, which seems to fit. And we should we will get to a full episode on this as we iron out some stuff.
That'll be a very full episode, Shooter. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it is fascinating, and the biggest thing we talk about is like having a plan as a team. But like a guy like Bremner will not be there for your second pick,
right? Because the other comp from the comp from last summer, when he was showing that breaking ball, the comp from last summer was Aaron Nola. So, I mean, this is the quality of guy we're talking about, but you take away the breaking pitch and just go fast changing out Wacha. So either way, it's a pretty darn good guy for your rotation.
So don't be surprised if that name gets thrown out there early, especially with what he came back to. Hey, we're finding this guy, because it's going to be hard to find that guy in the 30s. You're just not going to find that. So there's only so many teams that have first pick in the top 27. So it is really important. What about Anthony Ianson? Because, and for those of you listening, check out Draft HQ at prepbaseball.com, because Seif's rolling out these tail of the tapes, which are incredible. Just piecing through them with the collegiate right-handers. So thinking about Kaisen Witherspoon, Anthony Ianson. But like, actually, let's go to Witherspoon real quick, because I'm going to put this out in the open, because maybe it's like an old school. I don't even want to say old school, but like he only throws from the stretch, and like it's becoming more commonplace. I know
new school. That's new school.
And Steven Strasburg, I feel like Strasburg was like the first one where it's like, okay, he's just going to throw from the stretch, and it didn't affect him at all. Like he goes out there and dominated with 3, maybe 4+ pitches, and I just want to know, like, are any scouts like going up like, there's some issues with him throwing from the stretch, or is it like, dude, just chill out? He just uses less energy to dominate.
Yeah, I just think the unusual thing is using, my pitching coach experience, and what I've learned is the non-athletes, maybe you want to kind of limit them to stretch only, right? Just so they have to repeat a little less. Well, Witherspoon is definitely not a non-athlete. He's a very good athlete. So it is a little surprising that he went to stretch only, but at the end of the day, it works, right? And it really doesn't matter how you're throwing 4 to 5 pitches for strikes, 3 or 4 of which are plus pitches. And that's what Witherspoon brings to the table. Now his fastball, it's a power fastball. It averages 96 and a half. It also has a 75th percentile in the zone whiff rate. So it's got some life to it. It's just not a power, like Riley Pine has a power sinker, right? Kaisen Witherspoon has a power fastball with a big in the zone whiff rate. But the best thing about Kaisen, he has 3 breaking pitches that are also high whiff in his slider, curve, and his cutter. And he doesn't really use his changeup that often, but his changeup's really good as well. At least the few games I've seen him pitch the changeup, it's always been his 3rd to 4th pitch, but it's always had a really good effect just to slow the bats down so he can continue to attack with everything else. But no, he's just, and for our listeners, again, I'm trying to talk Shooter right now into making Witherspoon 3rd overall on our college board. I'm twisting his arm a little. I'm trying to get them ahead of all. I'm trying to go lefty, righty in Kate Anderson, Jamie Arnold, and then Kaisen Witherspoon. But I have Arquette sandwiched in there right now. But I'm working on getting Witherspoon up another slot. So that's how much I like him. That's how much I like Kaisen.
You know me and position players. That's usually where I lean my hat. Now let me put you hot seat. I'm going through your tail of tape, and again, check out like this stuff's incredible. Gage Wood or Patrick Forbes?
Well, you know what? After just watching every pitch in that 9 innings no hitter in the World Series, I would have to go Wood, but I actually had Wood above Forbes before that. I just moved Woods up a couple more spots because of that, and I hate to be like that. But so for me, definitely Gage Wood. Had him there before the College World Series, and Forbes was good in the World Series too in his first start. I think he might be starting again today, so I'll have even another look at Forbes. But that's an interesting kind of the here and the now and the power, and this is what I got in Gage Wood, 6 foot, 205 pounds, versus Patrick Forbes, the former not dual sport, but two-way player, converted the mound full time this year. Electric fastball, flash of plus slider. The control still needs some polish, and that third pitch needs some polish as well. But certainly a lot to like, and certainly another guy who's probably going to be drafted in the first round.
You were all in. Gage Wood coming out of last summer. You were like a huge dive into the metrics, all this stuff. Like you were a big Gage Wood guy. He gets a late start. I thought Matt Hobbs and DVH, the whole Coach Van Horn, the whole set, they did a great job of bringing him along, right? Like it's always fascinating in college because so much is like win now. We have to win, right? You're at Arkansas, you have to win now. It's the SEC, and to have the sight to see like we need this guy in Omaha, and like they bring him out. I think he started a couple games for 1 inning. I remember pinging you while you're at another game, like, hey, Gage Wood's throwing 99-mile-an-hour fastballs by guys at the top of the zone pretty easy right now. But it is a fascinating amount of value where like this guy comes on late. Omaha's been a huge propeller for a lot of guys. Let me ask you about Bremner versus Witherspoon. Just like how much separation is there? Like if you took just the college now, so if Bremner's college national team doesn't throw this spring, and then you watch what Witherspoon did this spring, who would you be taking first?
Wow. Great question. If you had asked me at the end of last summer, Bremner, because he just absolutely blew me away. I was like, man, this guy's good, because I thought Bremner could be 1-1 at the end of the summer. Just he was that good. He was better than Jamie Arnold. I mean, I can't tell you how good Bremner was. Because again, there was a third pitch. There was a third plus pitch. So you're thinking Aaron Nola, that's pretty good, right? Like you want that to front your rotation for 10 years. I'll take it every time. So I would have to go Bremner over Witherspoon at the end of last summer. But you can't walk away from what Witherspoon has done. I mean, like his stuff is good. His makeup's great. He posted every Friday. He posted well, all but maybe one start, and I can't even remember the start, but it was towards the end of the year. But he had one bad start all year. His analytics are there, like his whiff rates are there. His walk rate is low. His walk rate is 93rd percentile. His strikeout rate is 98th percentile. I mean, like he does everything you want to do. And if you want a major league comp, I know that I'm giving a major league closer as a comp. I'm not saying Witherspoon is going to be a closer. I think he's a 2-starter on a playoff club. And that's hard to predict. A lot of things got to go right, got to stay healthy. Yeah. I get that. But if we're getting granular, that's where I'm going with Witherspoon. And on the other end, Emmanuel Clase, that's kind of who he compares to, with just awesome breaking stuff, power fastball. So that's what I got there.
What I'm so fascinated by that is like when you go through the draft process, right? Like we got our guy at Witherspoon, right? If Witherspoon at 4 and then Bremner went at 5, wherever it may be. Once you get Bremner, the team that gets him is playing back this clip. Like, yeah, but last summer you would have taken Bremner over. Like immediately you start going on the marketing campaign. Here's how we're gonna do this, because it doesn't seem like you can lose, especially if you got good PD. A guy like Bremner can just fly right through the system. What about Riley Quick? Because Riley Quick was one of my favorite guys in high school. Coming out of Alabama, had a chance to be a big time offensive lineman, football wise. He's steadily talking with David Sharp, Austin Sharp, the Sharpies down, who do such a great job in Alabama and the whole deep South. Riley Quick was just hey, this fastball is different. Hey, this is some crazy sink from this guy who looks like he could be protecting the blind side, but moves really well, has a good slider. What do we have on Riley Quick? Because you and I kind of came to like, this guy's a first rounder.
Yeah, and he's moved up my personal draft board. I mean, I didn't have much background on him, right? He made one start in 2024 as a sophomore, blew his arm out, came back from Tommy John, and arguably came back a few weeks early because he's been out there every week for the Crimson Tide this past spring. So without that background, no USA C&T, no Cape Cod, no nothing. He was kind of a little bit. I probably pegged him like as a second, third rounder, kind of in that bucket. But he's done everything. I mean, you may look at his ERA; it might be a little high. You may look at his numbers, and maybe he doesn't have the swing miss rate on his fastball, but he's a sinker baller, right? So he's going to have different positive analytics. His walk rate is 75th percentile, which isn't great. It's good. It's not great. His strikeout rate is lower than what you'd like to see. It's only 85th percentile. Usually like that 98th and 100th percentile for strikeout rates. But again, he is a pitch to contact guy with a power sinker. He averaged 97 miles per hour on his sinker this spring. And he's also got a plus slider. I've talked to guys who've given him a 70 grade slider.
Oh,
so wow. I've never seen that. I don't doubt what they're telling me. They're really good at what they do, and they've been doing it a long time. So I do believe it. I've just never seen it personally. But so you're talking 270 grade pitches right there, and he's big and durable. I know he broke down already, but he's kind of like a Michael Soroka. That's kind of the major league comp that I've been hearing as well.
I'm big on power sinkers right now because I think that so many of the youth kids just don't see it because everything's so vert induced. Yeah. That those are the reps they're getting, right? How many reps do you get against a high spin fastball versus a guy who can sink it? It's just, you don't see it as much from 8U to 10U to 12U, 15U, 18U. Everybody's kind of high spin. So I'm curious to see with the game going in that direction. What about like a Marcus Phillips, Anthony Ianson, kind of same but different? Like this guy can spin the breaking ball. This guy's 6'5", 225 and puts it where he wants at 100, but doesn't spin it quite as well. Is that another situation where, hey, we're going to go to player development? What can we do well here? Can we get Marcus Phillips, the secondary? Can we get him to miss bats but more? Is that something you'll take into consideration?
Yeah, that's a good talk, good conversation, those two, because they are different. They're the same area of the draft, but they are different. I mean, yes. Ianson, he spins two distinct breaking balls, in his slider and his curve, and he has above average fastball velocity, but it's not overwhelming. It only averages 93, and the metrics are just so-so. It's got a common spin rate, common life, but when his breaking pitches are on, he is good night. He's kind of like that. He's kind of that Bugs Bunny changeup you're talking about. Strike one, strike two, strike three, you're out. Same thing with his breaking balls when he's on. He was not on at the College World Series, so if anybody saw him then, he just didn't have his breaking balls. And he's not – when he doesn't have his breaking pitches, his fastball is not good enough to survive, I guess. Now, can he develop and grow into that? Certainly. So he looks like a starter. He has the pitches to be a starter. And I got him pegged. He'll be farmed out. He'll be drafted and farmed out as a starter without a doubt. On the flip side, Marcus Phillips. Okay, back to Allison. He's 6'2", 205. On the flip side, Marcus Phillips. The guy's just a monster. 6'4", 245. He's kind of like the Hunter Green. If we want to go old school, I always see Lee Smith, big Cub fan growing up. Just a big old dude just throwing fastballs and sliders up there. And that's Phillips's his two-pitch fastball slider. He does have a changeup. It is his third pitch, but I mean, he's just durable-bodied, power guy. And his upside is that he has limited experience. He's thrown less than 100 innings in college, I think, or 102 innings in college. He's college junior. We know his story from South Dakota, went to Iowa Western, junior college as a freshman, didn't play, was injured, came to Tennessee, bullpen last year, starting pitcher this year. But again, his major league comp is kind of a Hunter Green, upper 90s fastball. It's not the best shape. It does have some carry, and he's more of a 5'4" release height guy, kind of that three-quarter, low three-quarter. So, it's got that carry, and he's got high spin stuff too. So there's a lot to like. So he's more of a development guy than Ianson, but Phillips could be a 1 right at the end of the day. Phillips could be that guy. You're like, yep, we just took a 1 with the 40th pick in the draft. So it all goes back to, hey, draft what you're good at. I don't know where Seattle picks 35 to 45.
I do.
But he would be a great guy for Seattle because, man, I don't think there's a better team at developing college pitching right now than Seattle, and Phillips has everything you need.
That's incredible. And you talk about those, hey, right now this may not be here, but the developmental aspect. And I think back, like, talk about Spencer Strider, right? Spencer Strider, not a first rounder, but like went somewhere. If you did the redraft of like, how did this guy not go in the first round? No, let's talk more about like they developed this kid, got in the lab and did what he's become. I'm looking at some of the other college right-handers. So like JB Middleton, who's got crazy strike stuff, like can get after it, not the biggest frame. Elwanger at DBU, electric arm talent. We thought he had a chance to be a top 40 pick out of high school. Jacob Morrison at Coastal Carolina, who looked outstanding.
He's fun. Watch him. He's not real well known. I don't know. He's not so high on other draft boards, but watch him. Just it's low to mid 90s velo, but it is a banger of a breaking ball, and it is deceptive because it's 15-20 slower than the fastball, but it's got teeth, it's got depth. He repeats it. It's a really good pitch.
6'7" from the state of Michigan. He is a former future gamer. The Chanticleers and Coach Schnall were definitely locked in to some of that action, as they have long been, and have a lot of guys on their roster who are from all around. They get everywhere. They get after it. Coach Kevin Schnall did a great job in his first year, and really get some under the radar talent. Even I always think of Caden Bodine, who I like loved in high school, but it's like nobody's really on this kid. He's really good. He's going to Coastal. Continue with those right-handers though. Malachi Witherspoon, Chase Shores is another one. Like player development wise, like this guy throws a 100, 102, whatever it is. Can we get him to spin something? It was something in high school where he just couldn't spin it. Like he had a solid changeup, but it was like, what are the fastball metrics? Is there something to change here? Cam Leiter's coming off an injury, probably had a chance to be a first rounder. Gabe Davis, who I know we both loved last summer out of Oklahoma State. Michael Lombardi, shout out the Green Wave, who can really get that hoppy fastball at the top of zone, tunnel that top to bottom breaker. Michael Lombardi might be on Strider watch, because he's kind of really good athlete, two-way player, has some feel for spin. But all those guys, I feel like there's intrinsic value to getting them when you get them, right? Like, hey, this guy may not be our first rounder, but when we redraft in 7 years, we'll be like, hey, this guy should have gone in the top 10. So is there somebody in that list where you're looking like, that's the guy you want to go out and get, and whether it's a Middleton, whether it's Morrison? I guess you're just talking about Shores, who has a ton of stuff, Nate Snead, Cam Leiter, any of those guys where you're like, hey, if this guy somehow got to the third round, you are going nuts in your draft room.
Oh, without a doubt, you take Chase Shores in the third round. I don't think he gets her, but I mean, I don't think it's a secret that he is a bullpen guy. Ever since LSU moved in the bullpen, he's had huge success. He's doing great at the College World Series, just pumping strikes. He was 102, I think, in the Super Regional. He was up to 102. But yeah, I mean, second round. A lot of those guys who made good second rounds, like Peyton Prescott, maybe not a second rounder, but he's a late up and comer. He was touching 99, I think 100 by the end of the season for Florida State after pretty much living 96, 98 for most of the year. So he had a late bump. He's sophomore eligible, so that's going to be
another future gamer there, Seif. A lot of future game guys if you get out there and watch.
Yeah, no. I've always been a huge fan of Gabe Davis. I don't know enough about the medical. I know I loved him last summer. I loved him last spring. I loved him last summer. He didn't. I think he had they said it was this fall when I went to Arkansas to watch Oklahoma State play at Arkansas. Davis didn't pitch. They say he fell and hurt his shoulder hunting or something, or hurt something hunting. Well, he only pitched the first week or two of the spring season this spring, was out for most of it, came back at the end. If I had more details there, but Gabe Davis would have been the guy at the beginning of the year. Second round, slam dunk, take him every second. So a lot of really good names. And the last thing we haven't talked about is a lot of those names we've already talked about, but there are 14 eligible players that this year have touched 100 or better. So we've spoken to my alum. So if you want power, we got you power, because other guys we haven't talked about that throw Malachi Witherspoon, Kaisen's brother, Nate Snead from Tennessee, Tanner Franklin, Tennessee, Brian Curley, Georgia, Kristen Fouch, reliever from Arkansas. I mentioned Prescott. Jacob Mayers, who probably won't even pitch in the College World Series for LSU, but he's touched 100. Matthew Hoskins from Georgia, Ryan Osinski from Virginia, and Jordan Stevens, another guy from Georgia. So, I mean, if you want high octane stuff, they're also there for you.
Hey,
Right-hand pitchers are a deep, deep class.
When did the heat sheet become a chapter book?
Man, I know. Well, the funny story behind that is when I started 9 years ago, it was 95 or better, right? 95 or better. We got into, I think we maybe got like into 80, 90 guys a year. And that just seemed it just wasn't manageable, right? Like that's just a lot of guys. So we shortened it up to 96 a couple of years back. I think 3 years back, we made it 96. And then that got to the point where we were over 100. So that was not manageable. So we raised it to 97. And even though we are at 97 now, that's the minimum you have to be on the heat sheet is 97. We have 114 guys from season start to present, 114 guys at the Division I level throw 100 miles per hour better. And we probably missed a few because there are a few I've heard about. Our policy is we have to see them in person. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure there's a handful at least guys that we've heard about that we can't really put on, that we don't put on there because we haven't seen them. So it's amazing. Absolutely
Where
amazing.
are you at on the injury aspect of, I'm thinking like prep guys throwing so hard. And for me, when we're going through our lists and identify, especially prep right-hander, already throwing so hard, right? Everything's up there. What is the full arsenal and aptitude? Because to me, like these guys are going to get hurt at some point, right? They're throwing so hard. Mm-hmm. If we slow down the development curve, like if this guy needs to develop other pitches, but we think that he's probably going to get injured, or he's going to get injured at some point, will he ever be able to develop it, right? Like this guy goes out, he's throwing 98, he's throwing 100, he throws for a year in the GCL or the AZL, whatever it may be, then he's hurt. Now you're looking at like a 3-year cycle of like, hey, we haven't even developed a slider. Like, how do we give this guy all this money if he doesn't come with the packages and parts, and we are going to be 21 before we even can do that? Is that something that you've ever, I know this is going off on a tangent to the prep side, but like, that's something that I think about a lot.
Yeah, you just asked a really long question with so many different layers, right? Like, I mean, we could go back to, well, there's only a certain number of roster spots you can have for any major league club in the minor leagues now, right? I don't know that magic number, but they have to cut, each team only has 4 clubs now. They cut all those roster spots and all those clubs. What was it, 3 years ago now, 4 years ago, right after COVID, right? They reshuffled all that. So you can go back to that. So no, they really don't have time to develop these guys because it's here and now, right? You can go back to kids want velocity because number one, that's what the draft pays for. That's what clubs pay for. So as a kid, why wouldn't you want to develop the velocity? And with that, there's now a way to train for velocity. That's what kids do. And both the clubs and the kids and the parents, everybody involved, agents, they're willing to take the risk. You develop the velocity, you're going to throw 98, but you just increase your chance of getting injured by 25%. I don't know, that's arbitrary total, but that's the ball, that's the stage we're in. So no, I don't think there's the development curve is considered because they want instant gratification. Kids want instant gratification in signing bonus money, climbing the ladder, being a big league, and clubs want return on their investment quickly. So no, to answer your question, with all that considered, there's no development curve. Get out there and throw it. And if you break down, we'll take care of you, So
I think the better organizations will continue to identify the arsenal and packages and really the feel. So like the feel for secondary with regards to arms above the radar gun. And like it comes back to grading the tools. How does this guy move? What's the athlete look like? How does he get down the mound? I'm thinking now I'm circling back to the 26 class. There's a kid, Harrison Polina from Tennessee, moves really well. He's only 88, 92, but he's spinning at 3,200. He has feel for that. Hey, he's just 92 right now, which is good because he's 17. He has the ingredients for us to get him to 96, 97. We don't need him to be there yet. And that's something that I think any of the young arms listening, like, yes, the instant gratification is there, but I'm sure all your agents will tell you it's not just about that signing bonus. It's that second contract that you're constantly pursuing. And with that, Seif, this has been a pretty meaty episode where we dove into some really good stuff throughout the draft. We will continue to watch the Combine because they do a great job on the coverage. Like I love listening to Dan O'Dowd. Like I have to give a shout out. Like it's not easy to go on for a BP session and actually give some critical thought. And I think he does a really good job with that throughout because it can be a puff fest of, hey, this guy's hitting home runs versus like, hey, this is how the swings work. And so really fascinating, always trying to learn on there. Shout out to Lance Berdzowski, who does a great job as well. Hoping to get him on this show at some point. But Seif, we will continue to get after that in final mock drafts. All of you listening, the final draft board will be coming out. Some minor tweaks throughout as some guys shift and we finally get our final evaluation as we look forward to what is actually eventually going to happen, right? The draft will happen at some point, Seif, on July 13th. So
eventually.
Eventually. So for all you scouts out there who are turning the pages to 26, we will get back to 2025. It's going to be fun. Wrapping up Omaha Combine and finally with that big meaty mock draft heading your way. I'm rocking this awesome hat, one of my favorite hats, the red, white, and blue, getting ready for the 4th of July. Big polo. Seif's got his stuff on there. Check out shop.prepbaseball.com for all your prep baseball gear as we go into the summer. And until next time, Dr. Seif, this has been an episode of The War Room, and we will see each and every one of you at the ballpark.